Hello and welcome everybody to episode 12 of the ModXtra Podcast. We are two massive man nerds who worship in the broad church of nerddom, and we come together every 2 weeks to talk about all the geeky and nerdy things that we've been consuming and getting up to. I'm Chris, otherwise known as True Mr. Six Online, and over there that fella is...
Andy, a.k.a. Roadman. In it, fam.
Fam.
Well, go on, my G.
Hearing you loud and clear, bruv. Yeah. There you go. How was that?
It was sick. Blood.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah. Did it one take and everything? Oh, you're a bit loud then.
That was my maniacal laugh.
It peaked. I heard it peak in my headphones.
Oh, dear. It's all down here from here.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Well, here we are again. The dream team to talk about TV, movies, comic books, computer games. Largely, whatever just generally leaps into our mind tends to be the pattern of it all.
That seems to be the way. But we're back to a more structured format this episode.
Yes, indeed. We dipped our toes in the water with a couple of themey episodes. We did Star Wars Special and the kind of teams theme one. I notice, actually, that not many people have given us much feedback as to what's working for them better or not. I don't know whether that's just silent agreement that either will do or whatever, but I'll restate it up front. We'd be interested to know, folks, if the kind of nerdy book club with films and comics is more your thing than the specials or the themey types of episodes. Let us know.
Reach out.
Pop a comment down below.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I forget sometimes that we're posting this on YouTube, but we are.
We are.
For the time being. So fun, jam-packed episode once again. If you listen to our last episode, you'll know that we've had a movie rewatch and a comic book reread to discuss in this episode, as well as always, an extra little kind of segment at the end for just a fun discussion or a game or something. We're having a chat this week. But before we get into all of that, we like to just kind of do a little bit of a 2 weeks in review. So I'll ask you, my good man, what have you been up to since we last recorded?
Well... it's been very Vikings orientated. I've been chugging my way through that. I find that...
Have you not finished it yet?
No, I've been chugging away. What happened was that I started to get a bit tired of it. I was enjoying the Viking bits, but the bits in England and in France don't do it for me. It's boring.
In France?
In Paris.
There wasn't that much stuff in Paris, was there?
No, but there are bits. Mostly it's like the England and the dude from Wessex. But those bits, I'm just not interested. Whereas the Viking doing Viking-y things is quite interesting. So I've been watching some Vikings, but I've been...
Vikings will do what Vikings do.
substituting in something different. And it goes back to our discussion many episodes ago about who was best, John McClane or Jack Bauer. And
no,
so I've started.
You aren't, are you?
Started 24.
Oh, my word. Oh, of course, because it's on Disney stuff.
It is all free. I had to wait a while.
Yeah.
And then there's quite a long story about why I haven't got into 24. I don't know if I've told you or not.
I know you've told me personally, but I can't recall whether you've...
So I bought the box set many, many moons ago, and we started watching it, me and my wife. We didn't have kids at the time. And we got about halfway through season 1. We were enjoying it. That's great. I can remember it because I was sat on the floor. And then she went into the kitchen, got something, sat on the sofa and said, "Can you move?" And I went, "No, because I've been sat here the whole time. You can move. You got the whole sofa." And anyway, it escalated from there. She turned the telly off. And I was like, no, don't be silly. So it went on. I pulled the fuses out of the house because it was an old fuse box. So I pulled the whole fuse out. So, well, I can do that. And then it all calmed down. Then she took the CD, went upstairs and threw it out the window. Or DVD, and it landed down the side of next door neighbour's conservatory. And then we didn't watch 24 again after that. Then I tried it again. Like, I think it must have come up on Netflix or something, but I'd already seen a lot of them, so I was a bit bored. So this time round, I had a flick through. I realised that I was never going to make it through series 1 again because of the PTSD and the harrowing memories. So I watched the last one of series 1. So I knew what happened, and then I've gone straight into season 2, and I'm about 5 episodes into season 2.
Okay.
So far, I don't feel that he is as hard as John McClane. Just saying.
Oh, shut up! You don't know what you're talking about.
But there are many, many hours of 24 to get under my belt before I can make that informed and educated.
As it picks up pace, and he starts like taking down bigger and bigger compounds full of more and more terrorists. You'll see.
Yeah. Without a doubt, he's hard and he's a bit nuts. Certainly, he's brilliant. This second season he's a little bit more like than the first, due to the harrowing events of the first series, I suppose. But interesting nonetheless. I'm chugging through them. He's handy. He certainly knows how to take down a group of baddies. I found the last episode of season 1 a little bit of a disappointment.
Last episode of season 1. It's been that long ago. I can't quite place the events. This is with what's her face? Jesus,
Nina.
Yeah.
And then the whatever baddies that she's teamed up with. And then he kind of drives his car into a boathouse, shoots a couple of guys, and then there's just 2 old guys left, which he takes down to Funky Town pretty easily. No spoilers there. But anyway, so I am plugging through those. I'm enjoying it. It feels very dated, but then I suppose it is. So there's no getting away from that. Old. But it's all now on Disney Plus Star. It's all free, so no harm there. So I'm kind of flicking between 24 and Vikings.
Which must be an interesting...
yeah. It's a good mix. Just to break up the medieval-y type axe-slashy, murdery type things with a more modern-day bombs and guns murdery type thing. So that's cool. Other than that, Apex-wise, I've been getting quite a few games in. I'm still averaging at least a win a little session, which is nice. Enjoying the new caustic event with the extra zones.
I don't like that little caustic place.
Everyone drops there. It's
madness.
So that's quite cool.
Do not like it there.
Me and Javier have been playing some ranked as well, which is quite nice. Because
is there pace different in ranked? Is it a bit more?
Well, you don't have the extra zones because that makes it quite hectic. So to explain, you have obviously the ring that slowly brings all the teams together that encloses, and if you are in the ring, you eventually die. But with the event, there's extra bubbles of killy ringness that appears within the zone, making it harder to navigate. And rank doesn't have that. It also doesn't have the weird kind of annoying Maggie voiceover thing that the event has as well. So we're doing that. We are right at the bottom of ranked. We're in bronze, so it is relatively easy pickings. Other than the game I played the other day, right, where I joined the 2 biggest Smurfs I've ever seen in my life. A Smurf is basically someone who's very, very good at the game, opens up a brand new account so he can kill people that are a lot crapper than they are. And these 2 guys literally, like, I didn't do anything. I just like jogged along after them. And
moral support.
At some points, I rezzed a couple, on a couple of occasions, kind of revived them when the other one would have probably done it, but they were just kind of gunfighting it out, and they decimated the entire map. I think we had something like 28 kills. Oh, I took a photo actually. I will tell you. So I just like boodle on behind them whilst they just kind of destroyed all these lower level gamers, as I am as well. And got just the easiest win going. Let's see, where's that here? So,
sounds like fun.
We have got myself with 1 assist, 247 damage, and 3 revives. Pretty decent.
Oh, very good.
We've got
team player.
The next dude had 7 kills, 3 assists, 3 knockdowns, 2,097 damage. And then the third guy had 16 kills, 2 assists, 11 knockdowns, 3,092 damage. That was a mental game of just jogging around after 2 absolute beasts.
Just getting your steps in.
Yeah, chalked up another win for the board, so I wasn't going to complain.
Fair enough.
And that pretty much covers it. Me and my wife, we're starting to watch Snowpiercer. I don't know if we've
the Netflix series.
Spoken about it for the Netflix series. We watched the first season, enjoyed it. Thought we'd try the film out when that came up on Amazon Prime. hated the film. It's weird.
It is a weird movie.
Whereas as weird as the series is, it's not that weird. And they've just started doing the second season on Netflix. We're a little bit behind, so we haven't got to worry about getting to the point where we're having to wait for the next episode, because we'll already watch kind of one or two an evening when we're watching them. And it's really good. You definitely have to start at the beginning. It's not one that you can pick up halfway through, because you'll be like, what? Why is why is Sharp in it, and why is he mental?
Why is Sharp in it, and why is he mental?
Sharp and the girl from Labyrinth. Yeah. What's happening there? That's a series, isn't it? I've not seen that for ages. Sharp. Oh,
I mean, yeah, it's around somewhere, I imagine.
I've not seen an episode for that as years. It was the Welsh singing at the end that always did it for me.
I reckon, was it BBC or ITV? It might be on one of their catch-ups.
Sharp. Let's chuck that into the
old Just Watch app.
1993. Oh, look at him, young. Sharp, the Legend, the movie from 1997. Sharp's Peril in 2008. That's quite recent. He looks older than.
It's on Sky Go, dude, and UK TV Play.
7 seasons.
Yeah,
Christ on a bike.
I used to watch Sharp.
Yeah, that was a Sunday evening one, wasn't it? It was always on a Sunday evening, 8 till 10.
Yes.
Suitably replaced by other greats such as Midsummer Murders, Taggart, Frost, yeah, Inspector Morse,
Cracker.
Endeavour, Cracker. The list will go on. TJ's like, this is heaven for him, I'm sure.
Policeman who used to police the village.
Heartbeat.
Set in the 60s. Heartbeat.
Oh, I couldn't stand Heartbeat.
I didn't watch a lot of these. I'm not the biggest of fans.
Used to come on just after Last of the Summer Wine.
I thought Frost was all right because I liked David Jason.
That man's got the voice of Danger Mouse. What's going on?
Many similarities between the two characters, actually.
Absolutely.
Clearly not got a great deal of range.
Del Boy's aged badly, isn't he? Christ on a bike. Anyway, so I can't remember where I was. Oh, Snowpiercer. Yeah, watch it. It's good. I'd definitely start at the beginning, but it's just different. Do you know when like so much stuff is just the same idea? And even though it's a little bit of a wonky idea, it's from a French comic book series, I believe. That's how it started.
That was adapted into a film by a Korean filmmaker using British and American actors that has now been made into a TV show.
Yeah. And yeah, I quite like it. I quite like when there's a brand new idea and it's not just something that's the same shite over and over again. So yeah, it's good. That's my recommendation of the week, folks.
I will add it to the watch list.
And that, I think...
The watch lists are massive right now.
Although I usually remember stuff when you start talking. I think that's me done.
All right, okay. Well, it still sounds, productively nerdy.
Always. How about you, my friend?
How about me? So I have been watching a sitcom on Apple TV called Ted Lasso. I got a year's worth of Apple TV membership when I upgraded my phone. It was like a deal that came in my iPhone. I thought, I should actually have a look and see what's knocking around here. I tell you what sent me over there was I saw the trailer for that new Tom Holland film, Cherry.
All right.
Which is an Apple TV movie. And I've only watched one other thing on there to date, which was the Tom Hanks war movie, the one with Stephen Graham in it, about the boat. I can't remember what it's called. The naval war film. Yeah,
that came out not long. Well, it was due for cinematic release, and then COVID hit, and then Apple TV bought it, or they had a deal for it to come out on Apple TV. I think Tom Hanks was gutted.
Yeah, that's right. And it was the first thing I watched because I've got free Apple TV with my phone. Watched that and then forgot I had it. And then I saw the Cherry trailer and I went, I've got Apple TV. So I went and had a look, and this Ted Lasso caught my eye. On paper, it doesn't sound like the sort of thing I would watch. It's about a football team in London, Premier League football team, who hire an American football coach to come and take over the coaching of the team in an effort to improve performance. Or was he hired to improve performance?
Ooh.
I'll not spoil it.
Is it a comedy?
It's a comedy, yes, that's right. So the fact that it's a football team is neither here nor there. That's just the context in which this all takes place. You don't really see a great deal of football going on. There's a lot of the humour is about there's one player who's that sort of stereotypical fancy boy footballer, into designer brands and getting modelling gigs and stuff, who's dating a model and driving an Aston Martin and all that kind of stuff. There's the old geezer who's getting a bit too old for the game but won't give it up. There's a lot of stereotypes. The two American football coaches are very stereotypically American sunny,
Woo!
Nice, absolutely. And that doesn't jive very well with some of the very cynical, sarcastic Britishness. And it worked for me. It's not laugh out loud. It's actually a bit of a kind of quieter, more chucklesome sort of piece of work. But the characters are well developed. It's got some depth and goes to interesting places. And it's definitely cheesy at times. But for a 25-minute little hit of, something light, I quite liked it.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's Jason Sudeikis is the American football coach.
Oh, what's he been in? I recognise the name.
He was in what's that one with Jennifer Aniston, the family in the Winnebago. Oh no, I might be confusing him with someone else.
Jason.
He's definitely in some of these American kind of comedies. He was in I can't actually. I've completely gone blank on the names of these.
I'm with you. We're the Millers, Horrible Bosses.
That's the one. We're the Millers, Horrible Bosses. Those are in fact the exact two films I was thinking of.
And looking at his filmography, that's about it.
Yeah, he's an SNL guy, isn't he? So I've also recently rewatched Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, the one and only season that was ever made of that. I was just feeling a bit Aaron Sorkin a couple of days back, so I watched a few episodes of that and then ended up nailing the whole box set.
Good work.
We'll not talk about it. Yeah. I love Aaron Sorkin's stuff. It's just I find it incredibly addictive, and I should have known better before I was like, I'll just watch a couple of episodes. I was doing something else. When you're looking for something that and you're familiar with and you're comfortable with, that you can just put on, because if you're not fully watching it, it doesn't kind of matter, and you can just zone in when your favourite bits come around. I was doing some other stuff, and so that's what I was looking for. But then I ended up dropping into the black hole and smashing the whole season. Definitely cancelled before, another one of those cancelled before its time kind of shows, but very good. For anyone out there who's a fan of some of his later work, like The Newsroom, you can kind of see that very thematically similar, behind the scenes of a TV show kind of thing that he does. So that's cool. Matthew Perry and Bradley Whitford, the two kind of leading dudes in that, and then Amanda Peet as the TV executive. And then I mentioned the Navy SEALs to you a couple of episodes back. I had a few crew on the box, so I just got caught up to the most recent episode on that. Nothing has changed. Still exactly the same review as I gave it a couple of weeks back. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. It's got a nice bit of action. I like the characters well enough. It passes the time. It's tense when it's supposed to be tense. It's funny when it's supposed to be funny. That'll do, It's my kind of guilty pleasure show at the minute. So that's my TV stuff. Not particularly exciting. I've watched a couple of movies in the last 2 weeks as well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so I was loafing around on Amazon Prime and I noticed an old Robert Redford movie from the 90s that I remembered liking called Sneakers was on.
I kind of remember that. What is it?
Well, it's got Dan Aykroyd in it, Robert Redford. It's got... what's the lady's name? I can't remember the actress, but she's very well known. It's Ben Kingsley's in it. It's and it's about a group of career criminals. Well, they're not career criminals, but they kind of are, who have sort of gone straight and now sell their services as people who rob people to test security.
That wasn't what I was thinking of. I was thinking of the TV series Sliders.
Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely a different thing.
Yeah, a lot.
And it was all right. I think after watching it again, I was like, oh, maybe my memory of that was fonder than the quality deserved.
Oh, well, that's a shame.
Yeah, it is what it is. And then I was feeling a bit MCU. The Falcon and Winter Soldier marketing machine got me feeling a bit excited, more so I think than WandaVision. And so I dropped Avengers Infinity War on the other night because I was just feeling a bit Marvel Cinematic Universe-y. And that's a hell of a movie.
It's amazing.
Hell of a movie, that one. I was chatting to the wife after I watched it, and I must admit that some of the more recent output, I've started to feel like it's getting a bit formulaic, like there's just the same formula pattern that we started to see emerge, that was getting a bit repetitive for me. But Avengers Infinity War, it is not formulaic by any stretch of the imagination. You know, they really kind of subvert kind of what you expect from those characters and what you expect from the storyline. And of course, the way it ends is a bit of a fall before the rise, as they say.
Indeed. I remember walking out the cinema going, so what? What?
What?
I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I didn't realise. And then the emotion.
Yeah, I think a little bit of background comic book knowledge helps sometimes when you're watching these films. You know, from my perspective, I've kind of got a more of a sense of what's coming up. Or
So is that had a comic book about the same kind of storyline then?
yeah, there's been a whole thing about Thanos and his Infinity Gauntlet and the Infinity Stones, and you know, a lot of the strands that exist in the MCU are some sort of derivative form or slightly altered form of storylines that are taking place in the comic book.
Yeah, I just didn't know how close to it was, because I know that Thanos like falls in love with death, doesn't he?
Death, yeah, that's right. They've not explored that in the movies, but the whole thing about his desire for power and his I don't know what you call it, his vision for the world, for the universe, his
saving the universe.
Yeah, exactly. His kind of viewpoint is definitely one that's come up in comic book storylines before.
Cool. I don't think we'll see him again in the MCU.
That's unlikely, but who knows? You know, these things, if they fully replicate comic books, you know, nobody's dead forever.
No, he'll come back as a goodie.
Quite possibly so. So yeah, there's that, and I anticipate before Falcon and the Winter Soldier starts up again, I'll be maybe watching another one or two, maybe Civil War, maybe Captain America and the Winter Soldier. You know, sort of stick in that ballpark.
Nice. The first episode will be out by the time that this vodcast is released, won't it?
Is it this Friday? Is it?
I think so. I might be wrong.
The Justice League Snyder Cut's tomorrow, I want to say.
Yeah, what is that? I've seen some discussion on that on the Ministry of Nice Discord, and
what is? Are you not familiar with what's going on here?
Right, my basic knowledge is that he went off halfway through the movie, so Joss Whedon came in and finished it off, and then what's he come back and gone, nah, mate, I want it this way. Oh, I want it that way. And
tell me why.
Why did Joss Whedon ruin my movie?
Well, yeah, there was a death in the family. He had a very tragic death in the family, which is why he stopped working on the first movie and why they recruited Joss Whedon to come in and finish it off. Putting aside all the kind of controversy that's surrounding Joss Whedon and his behaviour on set when doing it, it was well known and understood that the finished product wasn't kind of in line with Zack Snyder's vision. So there was a fan campaign, the hashtag Snyder's Justice League or whatever it was, and that campaign worked. It won through. So I don't think it was so much Zack Snyder saying, I'll come back and put it back the way I wanted it. I think fan demand and the campaigning that took place sort of drove the studio to say, hey, Zack, do you fancy,
re-editing it?
Well, he reshot some sections as well, I believe.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, reshot some. There were some reshoots. So it's now 4 hours long.
Piss off.
No.
4 hours long?
Yeah, absolutely.
What, that film Justice League with Darkseid?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And it's reportedly an enormous improvement on what was put out in the cinema.
Probably about 2 hours worth of improvement, I guess. Bloody hell.
Well, extending the length is not does not necessarily equal improved quality. As you well know,
it's got an hour extra than The Irishman. Bloody hell!
Yeah, it's just 4 hours long. So
that's mental. I don't know if I'll be able to. Well, I could quite easily sit through that, but how much different is it reported to be? Is anyone like?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the information is probably out there if you Google it. I've avoided it because I didn't want to I wanted to watch it without that stuff in my mind, if you know what I mean. So I've that information is possibly out there, but I've not engaged with that, so I don't know where the differences lie. I think the main thing that has been spoken about that I sort of picked up from catching glimpses of headlines is that the Cyborg and the Flash origin stories are more padded out.
I was just about to say that's because that's where I was going to say fall down. I mean, you get an idea of who they are, but obviously they've not had their own movies like Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Batman's had enough done about him, and Superman we know about, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
But what has got a dedicated hour to each?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that looks and feels like. I never read the articles. It's just one of those things, when you're flicking through Facebook and you read the headline, you're like, oh, balls. Did you have to put it in the headline kind of thing? So I don't know if I'll watch it tomorrow. It might not be it might be a weekend jobby or something.
What's it released on?
Over here, Sky have got it. Sky are the official HBO partner in the UK.
Oh, okay. So is it...
I think it's pay-per-view.
Okay. Interesting. 4 hours, though. I thought it was a good movie. I think the DC universe shoots itself in the foot by trying to compare itself to the MCU. And so anything that's not blockbuster, budget-breaking, super-duper, amazingly, breaking all the records, they just think is shit, and then they keep trying to change it for something else and something else. It's like, no, you start. Like that first Iron Man movie was pretty cool. But then it's built on, and they just want, to release one amazing movie that will be like, oh wow, that's amazing, and it's made billions of dollars, when it's just not going to happen. I'm not that invested in your characters yet. You can't introduce me to Cyborg for even if they've got the whole 2 hours on him. You can't introduce me to that character and put him in one situation and make me as invested as I am with someone who's had a build up of like 3 of their own movies, and then been brought into other movies. They start to interact with each other. That whole kind of 10-year build up, you just can't do it, and it pisses me off. It's just like, it's a good movie, well done, build on it. So Wonder Woman, they have done that, and then the second one I've not seen, Aquaman, and then you just got a feeling that they're just going to go, right, let's try it again. It's like, no, mate, don't.
Well, they've already, the Joker, and there's a new Batman that's on its way, isn't there? Where it's just a new take, a new director, new actor, new creative vision behind it.
Yes, it annoys me, but anyway, that's quite exciting.
Well, thanks for sharing.
You're always welcome.
There you go. And that's mostly my headlines from the last 2 weeks.
That's good. I remembered something.
Oh, okay.
I introduced...
Another long intro.
We'll keep it concise, don't worry. I introduced my son to Terminator 2 last weekend.
Oh, wow.
What a movie.
I was thinking about that film just earlier today.
Well, yeah.
I was indeed.
Luckily, I've seen the movie about 1 million times, so I knew exactly when to tell him to look away. There's only 2 bits he needs to look away from, and that's when his foster mum, who's not actually his foster mum, it's a T-1000, stabs his foster dad through the mouth, and the bit with...
when he's drinking the milk.
Yeah, and the bit with the finger, where he turns his finger into a pointed stick and goes through the eye of the guard in the mental hospital. So I was well prepped. I was like, boy, you want to watch this movie, you do, you look away when I tell you. And he did. And it's good. And then it's like, at the end, he's like, Dad, that's really sad. I was like, I suppose it's the first movie that you've watched that's not ended with, like the stereotypical hero's still alive and all well and good.
Yeah, interesting.
I know now how you cry. He didn't cry though, my son. I was expecting it, but he's obviously heartless.
Cold.
Isn't it? Although he was quite sad. Oh, on the other hand, I was like... Thumbs up. Anyway.
Right, there we go. Well, there's our rundown of the 2 weeks. Let us know, folks, what you've been up to. And if you've watched any of the stuff that we've been watching and what your thoughts are, please do share. But we'll crack on with the main segments now, shall we? So we've got our movie rewatch, which was Paul Verhoeven's Starship Troopers from 1997. Our comic book reread this episode is the first volume of Why the Last Man, published by Vertigo Comics and written by Brian K. Vaughan. And then our third segment, this episode, we're going to talk about our favourite movie scenes, what we believe are our greatest top movie scenes. And with all that said and done, especially after that intro, that should bring us to the end of the episode. So, should we crack on, my man?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome back there then, dear listeners, and it's now time for Andy's Retro Corner. This is where Andy selects a retro movie, usually from the decades, the 80s and 90s, which is his favourite retro era of films. We give it a rewatch and then come together to share some thoughts and ideas about it, and our rewatch this time around was Starship Troopers.
Yes, it was. And what a movie. I had some ups and downs with this movie, and I think we've got quite a bit to talk about, more so than I expected. Let's start off with the back of the box. This time, back of the box is coming from Amazon Prime, because the one from Disney Plus was terrible. So, would you like to know more? The Federation needs you for an urgent do-or-die mission in Starship Troopers, the ultimate sci-fi action thriller from the director of Total Recall, hailed for its mind-blowing special effects and amazing futuristic settings! 1997, 4.5 stars.
4.5
stars. I'd also like to say that we watched the movie on our watch party, that's the word.
Mod Monday movie watch party.
Unfortunately, it was the watch party for Disney Plus is very hinky and stinky. So it was just me and Chris that was watching. Stu tried, bless him. He popped in and out like a yo-yo, but could not get connected. So we'll might try and avoid Disney Plus for the next one. But yes,
I've noticed it being a bit sus.
It is a bit
compared to Netflix. When like my daughter's tried to do Disney Plus watch parties with her friends, so I got a feeling this is something.
Yeah, it is.
Something to do with the service, because the film actually crashed on us, didn't it? It just went nope.
It did. Yeah,
no more.
Yeah, like so I was wrapping presents for my daughter's birthday. That was the next day, so I wasn't too chatty. And then I was like texting you because I couldn't reach my keyboard because I had like wrapping paper over it, going, did you just stop it? And you're like, no. So yeah, it is a bit weird. Hopefully they'll fix it, because it is good to do the watch parties. It's fun. However, we've got a lot to talk about on this one, because I'll admit, right, hands up, I'll admit that I remember this movie as a good sci-fi flick with very little kind of depth or storyline to it. But a lot of shooting, monsters. I felt like it was a parody of it was done as a parody of a kind of B-movie, old school kind of monster flick with a sci-fi kind of twist to it. But I've had a little read through since and watching it again. It goes quite a bit deeper than that, which I wasn't expecting, and certainly didn't clock when I was 17 and watching it for the first time.
No.
So that was mental. So where to start?
Where indeed. I
will. I've not put, because there's so much extra than I thought we had to talk about. I've not kind of put any kind of bullet points together. I have, but one of the things that I point out, one of the things that I remember from the movie is the little bits where it cuts to like commercials. Which is something I like in movies. They do it a little bit in obviously Starship Troopers, but they do it in RoboCop where it cuts to like a news feed, also in Predator 2. It's not used that much. I really like it when they like cut to like, a TV show and then it flips back and whatever else. I don't know if that's got a name, because I know that when you look at the camera, I now know that when you look at the camera, it's called breaking the fourth wall, because you taught me that with Smokey and the Bandit. But I quite like that as a creative technique.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the subjects of those trailers are curious, very curious. And if you look deeper into it, you discover that there's some quite significant mind games being played by the audience on the part of Paul Verhoeven. So one of the very early sort of television adverts is an almost shot-for-shot replication of a Nazi German propaganda film.
Is it?
Yeah, which speaks to perhaps some of the more underlying themes that you've kind of sensed from watching it this time around that you didn't sense when you were 17 years old. Because I think and much of the, there's a guy who gets arrested for murder, gets arrested, tried, and executed all in the same space of, the advert, and you're like, oh my God, and the kids stomping on the bugs and the mum going, yeah, everybody's doing their part, are you? And these are all wartime propaganda messages that he has taken from, fascist regimes from the 20s and 30s and repurposed them into the film.
Yeah, it's crazy because the idea, it's all to do about how war will create a fascist regime.
Well, the fascist regime exists already, doesn't it? So all that stuff in the classroom with the teacher at the beginning, where he's saying, violence is the ultimate power, and that pure violence has settled every argument in the history of mankind. And Diz says something like, but my mum says violence doesn't settle everything. And he'll say, no, actually, we are, it's a very militarized society, and the idea of service is all wrapped up into military service first and foremost. And that kind of militarization of the state under a kind of authoritarian government. So the shower scene where they're saying, "Why have you joined up?" And one of the soldiers, she says, "I want to have children, and it's much easier to get permission to have children if you serve." And it's all these little very subversive aspects that could just completely wash over you because, let's face facts, most of the lines are delivered by moving planks of wood that you don't really detect it, but it's there. When you look at Neil Patrick Harris's Psy-Ops, I mean, he's basically wearing an SS uniform.
That he is wearing an SS uniform. It's like they are like
caps and leather coats and stuff, and so all those little adverts are all basically propaganda films, and that's the deeper satire that sits underneath it. So on the surface, you've got this message of war creates heroes, and serving your country, or in this case, serving the planet, is your civic duty as an individual, and that we will all live in this utopian society where everything is taken care for us on the understanding that you do your part. But actually, it's a dystopian view of the future, because a number of basic liberties that are taken off you, and in the film they're just dropped in. They're just thrown in. These aren't heroes. These are people who lose arms and legs and get fucked up by bug-type aliens. And I don't know. Anyway, I've been talking for a long time. I'll pass back over to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the shower scene when they say, "Why did you join up?" And the three that stood out was the guy that wanted to be the writer, the guy that wanted to go to Harvard but couldn't afford it, and the girl that wanted a baby. And those were the first three to get absolutely, just destroyed by aliens when they land on the planet. I'm pretty sure that isn't a consequence. Not consequence.
Well, it's war is hell, don't they? That's what they say, isn't it? War is hell, man.
What's the word I was thinking of? My brain's gone dead.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, it was meant on purpose to kind of highlight that point.
Intentional.
It was intentional. It wasn't a coincidence. That was the C word I was looking for. Other things that I thought...
I would hope
too. There's... The acting isn't great, but it's got some great actors.
Has it? Okay. Present your case, sir.
All right, maybe great is a strong word, but it has got some recognisable actors. Now, Denise Richards, I think that was one of her first films, so although she does go on to do quite cool stuff, Diz even is in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've seen her crop up in TV shows, actually. She's been around in TV land, I'm pretty sure.
You've got the Kurgan from Highlander.
Yes, you have, yeah.
You've got
Michael Ironside,
of course. You've got the guy from Breaking Bad's brother-in-law. So he's been in quite a few things as well. Been in loads of stuff.
Yeah, he's very famous.
The teacher, he's someone as well. I can't put an.
Yeah, that's Michael Ironside.
Oh, that's not the Kurgan. The Kurgan was the drill sergeant.
Yeah, I said and Michael. Ironside,
and Michael Ironside. He's been in lots of stuff. So there's recognisable faces in that movie.
Yep. Neil Patrick Harris,
Exactly.
Jake Busey. You're thinking of Clancy Brown, the Kurgan.
Of course.
Very famous for his voice acting work. He does a lot of cartoon and comic book voice acting work.
And he's in Shawshank, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He's the warden. Not the warden, like the drill sergeant-y type.
No, warden.
No, the warden's the guy in the suit with the glasses.
Oh, yeah. The prison officer, head of the
one who's got him cooking the books.
Yeah.
And the Breaking Bad brother-in-law, that's Dean Norris.
Yeah, I knew that. But the acting really is not that great, is it? Or is it supposed to be like that?
I think it's supposed to be. So, I mean, again, like yourself, I watched this film in the 90s and was just a bit like, what? You have to remember that at this time in my sort of mid-teens, when did this come out? 96, 97? 97. So that's sort of like 2 years prior to this, Goodfellas came out. We just had Pulp Fiction or Casino, it might have been. We had Martin Scorsese churning stuff out. It was the heyday of Quentin Tarantino, Usual Suspects. You know what I mean? Natural Born Killers, True Romance, Seven. You had all this like really, and this is why I was thinking about Terminator 2 as well. You see, because I was thinking about science fiction films in the 90s, which would have been around the same time again, wouldn't it? 95, 96?
Yeah, it's not that far different.
And in that context, because as you observe, and I share that observation, the acting is just pit awful, and just something about the way it's directed and put together. You walk away from it going, really? I mean, that's just, just really bad. But the film has been sort of reappraised in years gone by, and Paul Verhoeven has spoken much more about the film and said, well, gotcha. It was all very intentional to almost mask these subversive messages that he's putting out there to say, have a look at yourself, America, you're turning into a fascist state.
Yeah, I mean, it is that bad. It's kind of, it feels intentional. Like I said at the start, I thought it was a parody on like a 50s B movie.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that's what it's wrapped up in that, that's the wrapping paper they put around it, isn't it? Definitely. I agree. I think you're absolutely right.
On some of the positives, the special effects stand up really well.
Yeah, I think they do. Like the bugs are suitably kind of, you don't feel like you're looking at something sort of computer generated and superimposed over you don't feel like they're shooting at a man with a ball on the end of a stick kind of thing. So yeah, I think I would agree with that. It's definitely. And the architecture and the buildings and the sets and stuff are all very interesting. I'd be curious, right? So one thing that jumped into my head, I don't know, I don't think you saw it in chat because of everything that was going on with the connection issues. Nothing else lives on these planets with these bugs. They're just like rocky, barren landscapes. And I don't know if you saw when in chat, I said, like, what do these things eat? What do they?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What do they? They're just these barren landscapes, and these guys are living in tunnels, and they just pop up.
They eat each other? Eat slime?
Well, who knows? But there was no trees, no other creatures, no animals for them to hunt, which then sent me down the rabbit hole. I was like, so are these their home worlds? Or is there somewhere else? There's like they're actually living on this really large populated planet. They got buildings and cars, and and this is just like that's their equivalent of the mobile infantry that we're seeing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought the action scenes were really good. But now I kind of feel like I feel guilty for saying that because it's a satire against war. So I shouldn't really like the war scenes.
Yeah, they glorify it, and you kind of go with it, and you're like, wow. Yeah, it's clever. And that's, like I say, in the reappraisal of the film and Paul Verhoeven's subsequent kind of commentary on it is that's intentional. He's trying to make you feel that way.
Well, he's worked, but I'm not sure if I enjoy that when I want to watch
No, sure. I mean,
Sci-fi alien fight.
There's a whole deeper story there because the film is based on a book. It's a novel by a guy called Robert Heinlein, I think, or Heinlein, or however you pronounce it. And it's part of a series, the novel, from the 50s. And this was the last book, which came out in like 1960 or something, early 60s. And at that time, so that's a very serious book and has often been criticised, and there's loads of stuff been written about it because the author wrote it as a kind of right-wing, a bit of right-wing saber rattling to say this is what the future should look like. Like, he legitimately was kind of promoting militarization and authoritarianism in that sort of post-war view of the world. He was a very conservative guy at that period in his life. So not only is Paul Verhoeven, the writer's the same writer as RoboCop as well, incidentally, but not only is he satirizing like society at that time in the 90s, which is hugely ironic. When you look back at it now in 2021, you think, well, all these issues that this film is actually making me explore in my head are like even more true now. You know what I mean? But he was also satirizing the very source material that the film was based on.
Well, it's just far too deep for the MOD. Well, for this side of the MOD, anyway.
But the novel's very famous because he's, and you can see this in Starship Troopers, he's attributed as being, Robert A. Heinlein is attributed as being kind of like the grandfather of kind of hard science fiction. And the idea of, so without him and Starship Troopers, you wouldn't have Halo, for example. You wouldn't have the new interpretation of Battlestar Galactica. You wouldn't, the idea of power armor he was sort of attributed with the very first kind of introduction of this idea of power armor, which you don't see in the film at all. They just cut that whole bit out from the novel.
I might try and hunt it down, have a read.
It's hard going.
Is it? Oh, well,
I didn't finish it.
I'll have a go. Is it a bit like Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it's dense because the kind of scientific accuracy and the mechanical accuracy of a lot of the stuff that's going on. Rico's a bit of a very different kind of character as well.
What do you mean he's got depth?
Yeah, well, his name's actually Juan Rico from Buenos Aires, and I think he is, in fact,
South American.
Yeah, if memory serves. I may have misremembered that. So Paul Verhoeven was not only kind of criticizing and satirizing American society at the time and kind of the glorification of militarization. And you have to remember that he was, as a child, grew up in Nazi-occupied, I think he's Dutch, so it had been Nazi-occupied the Netherlands,
Wow.
Yeah. So he had very strong views on this. Yeah, so there you go. A lot more there to unpack than on the surface.
It is. Apologies, listeners, if you thought you were going to get us harping on about action scenes. It was a bit of a shock. I mean, halfway through, I was like, I don't actually like this movie. I really liked it when I watched it as a kid, but I'm not actually getting on with it. And then I kind of went, I do like it, but there's far too much to think about. I thought it was a bit of a throwaway kind of action sci-fi alien shooter, but I couldn't have been more wrong. There's a bit when they get the main brain bug and Doogie Howser puts his hands on him and he goes, he's afraid, and then they all cheer, and it's like, I felt really awkward, and I was like, well, I didn't feel that awkward. I was watching a movie, but it just felt a little bit uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't remember that. That's weird. But thought-provoking. And I suppose, going through what we've just kind of spoken about is good, but not the expectations. So one question I need to ask you. Did you enjoy it?
Sure. No, I'm not a big fan.
Oh, good. I have to say that I did not enjoy it as much as I remember liking it. I thought it was going to be a great one. And I still thought it was cool. Well, I quite like it. There's some good battle scenes in it. The characters are singly layered heroes that you can, there's some cool kind of quips and one-liners that come out of them. You get to see boobs, which is always good. And, missing from modern day movies. But overall, bit of a flop.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I just, despite my understanding of the deeper satire, and I of course knew all this before going in, so it's quite fascinating for me to kind of hear you from that that moment of rewatch. I just think I just can't get past I feel like you could still deliver your satire, you could still deliver your kind of political punch and a message. I just can't. The acting is so bad, and some of the scenes just make no sense to me. No sense. Like the lieutenant who's the head of the Rough Riders, the lauded hero, war hero from 2 different wars and blah blah. A citizen all his life. He doesn't get a funeral. He gets a bullet and put out of his misery. Diz gets the funeral.
Yes, she gets a proper funeral. There's they walk through a massive hall with people with lost limbs, lost arms, begging for attention to get to Rico, who's in his own room, submerged in jail, and will be for like 3 days because he's got a wound on his leg. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Also, his teacher, the one you've just mentioned, well, he was a teacher. Like, he must have joined up after them, So, like, maybe, he's been in the war in the past or whatever, but I don't think you just get to walk straight back in and then they're like, oh, we saved our lives. He saved all of our lives. It's like, hold on a sec. They've just been in the first battle and he must have joined up after, like, Rico and Diz, whatever. So how has he suddenly become, like, how has he had time to save all of their lives and get all this loyalty from his band of merry men?
Yeah. It's stuff like that. I just can't get past it.
Fair enough.
Even though I appreciate the kind of the subversive agenda of the writer and the director and how they actually managed to achieve that, catch us all out with it.
That's cool. Well, I'm nearly at the end of the first novel from The Expanse, so I might pick up that and have a go at it, unless it's really expensive, and see how I get on, and see if I can get past the first 3 pages. Cool. Right, let's wrap that one up. For the next movie,
sure,
I'm going to give you a choice of 2.
Ooh, okay, exciting.
Both are on Netflix, so we should hopefully get an easier time if you guys want to join us.
Roger that.
Although I'm thinking with movies in the future, we may expand past that, so we might not be able to do watch parties. But there's some cool stuff out there. So there's 2. Choice 1, Demolition Man.
All right, okay.
Choice 2, Ready Player One.
Ooh, so I haven't seen Ready Player One.
Ooh, right. Well, that I'm not gonna sway you. I'm not gonna sway you.
I've not seen it at all, but that's the factor that's making me lean towards it.
If you read books, I would be like, "Well, go and read the book first." But you don't read books, so there's no point.
I read books. I don't read fiction.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ready Player One on the basis that I haven't seen it ever before. And it's kind of been on my list for a while.
How exciting. Cool. Well, there we go, folks. Ready Player One. Coming to a Monday night mod view near you.
Absolutely. All right, great. Well, we'll wrap that one up there. Again, please do share your thoughts on Starship Troopers in the comments down below. But we'll move on to the comic book corner now.
Woo!
Yes, welcome back then, folks. And now it's my turn on Chris's Comic Book Corner. And the comic book that we are taking a look at in today's episode is the first volume of Why the Last Man, published by Vertigo under the DC Comics Vertigo imprint, written by Brian K. Vaughan and illustrated by Pierre Guerrera. I couldn't find a back of the book description of it.
Could you not?
No. So you're getting the Wikipedia this time round.
Ooh.
The series centers on Yorick Brown and his pet capuchin monkey, Ampersand, the only males who have survived the apparent global androcide. Death of all the men.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's what they got.
Oh, is that it?
That's all you need to know, really.
They call it the gender side in the book, don't they?
They do, yes.
Which I think is a better description.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book opens, little spoiler alert, but this happens early doors. This gets revealed very early doors that some mysterious event takes place in the very first issue where a worldwide just annihilation of the male species happens of all, all walks of the animal kingdom, including humankind, and except for our main character, Yorick, and his little pet monkey, Ampersand. And then various events unravel from there, really, in the first volume. I mean, I've obviously read the full 60 issues, so I know where it goes, but I'm trying not to tip my hand too much. But very popular, very well known when it came out. Let's see what Andy thought.
Cool. Well, I mentioned in the intro that I like when there's like a new story or a new idea and it's not something that's been kind of regurgitated before, or at least I've not seen it before, because, you know, things could get repeated and I've just not noticed before. But it was a new concept, a new idea, which immediately pricks my ears up, makes me interested. It was very easy to read. I kind of ploughed through the first book. So to explain, I've read the first kind of collected volume. So I don't know why all the men in the world part one guy and his monkey has died. I don't know why. I don't know why they've been saved. It hints on different things, but I think one of the characters say kind of halfway through, they say, well, everyone thinks it's their fault. Everyone thinks that they've got, they're the reason it's happened. And so there's lots of different people thinking different things. And it doesn't give anything away.
No, it doesn't.
I'm not sure if the world would be worse without all the men.
Well, I don't know. There are, the book does have like roving bands of what do they call them? The daughters of Amazon, who go for a very kind of like early historical interpretation of the warrior woman image. But then when you look at the small town in Ohio, is it Marysville?
Yeah, something like that.
That he comes across, it definitely demonstrates how, without that patriarchal power in the mix, they're able to put together a really lovely community. Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely interesting from that perspective,
because it's a bit like Endgame, but more selective.
I suppose so. Yeah, half the population gone. That's true. I can see that.
But I did enjoy the writer's take on it. So basically, all the men die apart from this dude, and it turns to a very kind of apocalyptic type scene. It says kind of very much like the apocalypse has happened. The whole kind of structure of society has fallen apart. People are all out for themselves, and it explains it in a bit because it's majority of the world's government are male, so the majority of people in government have gone. It goes through percentages. I'm kind of assuming those percentages are right, because it would be a bit crappy if he just made them up, or at least right for when it was made. So it's like engineers, the majority of engineers were male, so that kind of side of things all falls apart.
They were talking about power stations, weren't they? They were saying there was, the engineers in the power stations were largely male, and pilots. I think they make a reference at one point how there's no planes. We don't have enough people to fly planes. They all just fell out the sky because the male pilots, stopped flying them.
It's a nice kind of it's thought about, which I quite like. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I am eager to know more. And see how it pans out. Our main character's he's a bit of a knob.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to think that about him. To be honest, he's quite self-righteous, isn't he? And I don't know what the word is, like sanctimonious, isn't he?
Yeah, he sees wrong, and apart from the fact that he's the only man alive, he could be the key to the future of humanity. He sees someone picking a fight and he'll go and stick his head in it.
Yeah, and he's always banging on about finding his girlfriend.
Yeah, and it's just like, mate, circumstances have changed. But I suppose there are other characters within the storyline who are going, you what?
Yeah, really?
What,
is that where you're coming
really?
from?
Yeah. So that kind of balances it out. I don't get why he's a magician, although I suppose he has to be something, I suppose.
I mean, they don't really. It's never explained. It's just his passion in life, I think, and that's just and he's the product of a an upper class upbringing, isn't he? He had a university lecturer father. He's got a representative congresswoman mother. So he's been brought up in a kind of very privileged space where he can just be right. I'm going to be a magician and follow my passion in that way.
Yeah, he did. That's the beginning. He's like, no, I didn't get that job, but I did some tricks in Times Square and made a couple of $100. And it's like, he's not that concerned about not working and whatever else.
No.
No. So he's kind of he's got that kind of financial backing, and that shows in his character. I'm keen to know more. So I feel like I've kind of scratched the surface.
Yeah. That volume was, I think, the first eight issues in total. It was a 60 issue run, all told.
Right. So it's kind of it's set the scene, it's set the characters, it's set what it's going to be. It's put them in a little bit of peril, taking them out again, and I'm sure there's many more twists and turns. I thought it's a very good, I think, starter for that kind of comic book. So I'd put that in the same kind of genre as other ones we've gone through. So things like Preacher, and also what was the first one? The Authority, yeah. Less so much the other one set in the Authority world, because that was more planetary. That was more superhero-y. But I'd say it's a...
Oh, no, other way around. Planetary. Yeah, yes. Authority is the superhero.
Planetary. So there are unrealistic elements in it, but it's not kind of way out there superhero. And if you're looking to that, because I didn't realize there was such a large genre of comic books that weren't either Marvel, DC, 2000 AD, or the Beano.
For sure.
But there is where it is more like a TV series type, outlandish TV series type theme, like The Walking Dead. Obviously knew The Walking Dead existed because that's what it said. But yeah, I think it'd be a good, what I'm trying to say is that if there are people out there who are thinking, oh, these all sound quite interesting, but a bit intimidating, I don't know where to start or whatever, that would be a good lead in to this kind of genre of comic books. Yeah,
for sure. And this is something that we've discussed before, where I've dropped you into the middle of, say a Batman continuity or X-Men. We've looked at a little bit of X-Men stuff that you can't, or the Justice League's another example of that. We looked at some Justice League stuff that you can't shake this feeling like there's something that's gone on before or adjacent to what I'm reading here that's maybe not giving me the full picture, or I feel like I'm missing a part of the story. I think the X-Men specifically, you kind of felt a bit like that, didn't you? That you just kind of parachuted in the middle of something.
Yeah, which I think maybe as a kid or a youth, that's not so bad. You're kind of picking it up. It's like, oh, this is this cool thing. Let's have a look, and then you start getting into it. And then by the time you get older, you know the ins and outs of it. But as like a grown up, he's already got his brain filled with enough shit from work and family life. You want to start at the beginning of something, and it works for that. I think it's good. It's definitely up there. Well, potentially, I suppose it's just the beginning, and obviously I've read more of the other ones, and the other ones kind of ran from start to finish. But certainly, it's got potentially to be one of the best ones that you've recommended.
Yeah, I can absolutely grab you the rest of the series. It does go on some curious detours, and it gets a bit saggy at times. Whereas I think, in comparison to say the Preacher's quite lean, despite the 60 issue sort of target point that is. So this was for a period of time, this sort of 5-year run, particularly with the Vertigo titles, had become a bit of a tradition that these self-contained stories produced in kind of story arcs or volumes very much started by Neil Gaiman with his work on the Sandman stuff. So the Preacher and Why the Last Man are reasonably contemporary. There's a couple of years between them, but they're of that kind of same era of kind of creator-controlled works that are done in a 60-issue blast self-contained story.
Yeah, it's definitely focused on grown-ups as well as the audience.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the DC Comics. Their Vertigo imprint is their mature readers range. So it's the equivalent of what, like the Max line in Marvel.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's definitely the kind of mature readers, what they call the mature readers space. Although there has been some superhero stuff take place in that area. You know, John Constantine, the Hellblazer stuff, and Ant-Man, two very popular sort of superhero continuity characters. Swamp Thing as well. They were all a bit earlier than Why the Last Man and Preacher, but still part of that same imprint.
I'd have got Constantine. I wouldn't have thought that Ant-Man would have been...
Ant-Man's... I mean, the Vertigo run by Grant Morrison is batshit crazy, man.
Because Ant-Man isn't... apologies, comic book fans.
Not Ant-Man, sorry. Animal Man.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
Animal Man. It's me, sorry. I've
not heard of Animal Man before in my life.
What's in my head and what's coming out of my mouth aren't quite tied together.
Is he a man that can turn into animals?
Not quite. He adopts their characteristics.
Cool. Well, I think we should delve further into that. I quite like the sound of that.
Well, sure.
Adult Marvel.
We can. Adult Marvel and adult DC. Well, if you like that, then for the next one, let's sort of stay in the same kind of ballpark then, I suppose. And let's look at another Vertigo title that's a little bit more self-contained, although very different tone, very different feel, very different type of story. Let's take a look at the first volume of, let's do Grant Morrison's The Invisibles.
Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, that's The Incredibles, sorry.
Yeah, Invisibles. The Invisibles. Let's see how you feel about that.
Is that a family of invisible people?
It is not, no.
Oh, that would be a really crap graphic novel. It's just be beach bubbles and scenery.
So, yeah, background.
There's an idea there.
Yeah, I'm about to say, my head went into that, like, I wonder if there's something could be done with that. Even if it's just like a comedy piece, you know, like a parody. But yeah, let's try out if you kind of, you know, if Preacher was speaking to you, this has kind of got you intrigued. Let's keep you in the same space for a little bit longer and let's have a look at the first volume of The Invisibles by Grant Morrison.
Coolio Beanios.
All right, excellent. Okay, well, folks, if you've been reading along with us, let us know your thoughts on Why the Last Man, or indeed, if you've read it before, let us know your thoughts. Let us know whether you think Andy should crack on and consume the further 52 issues, and if so, I'll go and get those for him on the account. But in the meantime, we'll wrap up the comic book corner there and move on to our final segment. Right, okay then, folks. Well, here we are then, our rando segment at the end of an episode where we just pick a rando thing to put out there. And this week I've chosen the subject for discussion. It was driven by just a casual conversation I was having with my brother-in-law that I thought I'd expand the borders of this conversation into the ModXtra experience. And we were talking about our all-time favourite scenes, movie scenes that... we love, we've memorized, they're in our favorite movies, we've watched them a million times, and this one particular scene resonates with us or we think is great for whatever reason. I haven't really set much in the way of parameters. And I've gone away, I've kind of jotted down a few thoughts as to what my all-time favorite movie scenes are, and Andy's done the same, and we're going to share them now.
Yes, we are. I'd like to caveat that although I've had to think about it, I'm sure that there are other scenes that are probably better, and I'm sure when Chris starts saying what his are, I'll probably go, oh yeah, that is better. I focused on stuff that either gives me goose pimples or that little kind of something in my eye moments.
Very good. Okay, fair enough. Well, shall I go first or would you like to?
You go first and I can amend mine accordingly.
Okay, fair enough. I'll kick us off then. So my first top scene is the tea house shootout in John Woo's A Better Tomorrow.
Oh, don't think I've seen that.
You've not seen it? It's an early film of his. It's sort of mid-80s. Maybe came out in 1985, 1986. I didn't see it until the 90s. And this was, I mentioned this a bit earlier on in this episode, in fact, that in the mid-90s I started getting into like Quentin Tarantino movies and stuff. And I saw an interview with Quentin Tarantino, and he talked about the influence that Eastern cinema had on his own work. And he mentioned A Better Tomorrow. And so I went and had a look at it. And there's this one particular scene. It's fairly early. It's towards the back. It kind of closes up the first act of the movie. And it's Chow Yun-fat. And he and his criminal co-conspirator, but also like brother in arms, has been set up by this group, this other gang who are trying to muscle in on their turf, and he's been arrested and sent to prison. And so he decides to seek revenge on them. So he finds out that they're in this tea house, and so he rooks up and kicks off with them all. And it's that very first two-pistol John Woo, guy in a black suit looking cool as fuck, just annihilating his enemies.
He shoots them whilst jumping.
Yeah, absolutely. And what he does, the scene kind of starts up. He's with this girl, and he's kind of sneak in, so he's making it looking like he's with this girl, and they've got a room, but he's hiding guns as he's going along in all like the flower pots and shelves surrounding the room that his targets are in. And he just kind of opens the door, and the music stops, and they all look at him like, "Who's this geezer?" And then he just produces his 2 9mm and catches them with their pants down, supping their tea, and then does the old. And it's that very first kind of, and it's such an impactful scene, and has been so influential. It's talk about Quentin Tarantino, or like all the way through to like The Matrix, and a lot of modern action movies draw inspiration from that. And it was also the first film and the very first scene that made me kind of fall in love with, I love Hard Boiled and The Killer, and I really went deep into that sort of gun fu Asian action thing coming out of Hong Kong.
Nice. Yeah, Hard Boiled. I got that whenever it came out as a teen. Man, I remember getting it on VHS and being very excited because it wasn't that easy to get hold of.
No. And
it was brilliant, although the name of the film is wank.
It'd make a good rewatch, that one. I've not seen it in a very long time.
No, I've not either. I remember the hospital being particularly a favourite part of the movie when they're just running around there shooting and never, ever, ever running out of bullets.
They do reload their gun.
Yeah, but they've shot it like 50 times. And then when it needs a breather scene,
There's a famous tracking shot in Hard Boiled where it's all done on one single camera shot, which is a theme I'll come back to in a moment, but it follows them through a gunfight through a corridor. They get into an elevator and the camera gets in with them, and they reload their guns in the elevator while they have a bit of a conversation about, have I just shot a cop by accident? Bit of friendly fire incident. And then as the elevator reaches the floor they go into, the camera backs out and carries on with them. It's all one continuous shot with a cameraman with his camera on a dolly. Yeah. It's quite an exceptional piece of cinema, which may have hit this list, but I've gone for Better Tomorrow because it was like the first one I saw, the one that made me go, oh man, this Hong Kong action stuff is cool.
Oh, wow.
There you go. You weren't expecting that, were you?
No.
Okay, over to your first great scene then, my man.
Okie dokie. So, I've got a list of things here. I've not put them in any order, but I think that I will start off with the end of Commando.
The end, right, okay. You'll have to refresh my memory how it ends.
Well, it's the battle at the end.
Oh, sure. Okay,
so the bit where it starts off with him getting off of his boat and putting on his paint and his bulletproof jacket with his bare arms and picking up all his guns. And then everyone in the country gets killed.
Not a single soul remaining.
There's an awesome bit with the most 80s looking rocket launcher with 4 tubes in that he uses to blow stuff up. He uses some Claymore mines, I think, to blow people up. He goes through all the guns, all the bullets. He gets into a little shed, and there's a little scene in there with the little circular saws, which is edited out from ITV when I recorded it off of that as a kid, which I was very excited to see that extra bit of blood and gore when I finally got my VHS version. Shoots them all. And then stereotypical, the main baddie, who's usually the little weenie kind of older guy who's being protected by all these super soldiers, they kind of get the better of him, but then, he batters them all. And then he's got let off some steam because he puts a tube through the Bennett's stomach into obviously a boiler of some description. And then he goes away with his daughter at the end. It's the most elaborate. I think I'm not sure if Rambo is higher or if Commando is higher. I believe Commando may be higher death count than the first Rambo. But
you know, somebody out there on the internet's done the maths.
Let us know. But certainly that one gives me the goosebumps.
Well, there we go. And of course, we all know, you've mentioned it before. You're a huge Arnold Schwarzenegger fan.
All that matters to me now is Jenny. Don't disturb my friend. He's dead tired. So many good. Like that movie just has all the good lines. Do you know when I said I'd kill you last? I lied. I eat green berets for breakfast. And on and on and on.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Bit of 80s action love there.
Shock.
Right, on to my number 2 then. And I am going to call out Reservoir Dogs, the stuck in the middle with you scene.
With the ear?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Just a really tremendously well put together scene that's lived with me since the first day I saw it, you know. And every time I see it, I think, God, that's so well put together. So what it is about the scene? Well, 2 things. He puts the radio on, which is where the song comes into play, and he's doing his dancing, and he's kind of, you know, he's not just torturing the guy physically, he's fucking with his head. But there's a moment when after he's cut the ear off, where he walks out the warehouse to go to his car to get a can of petrol with the intention of setting the copper on fire.
Yeah.
And there's 2 things about that just always sit with me, because you don't actually see the ear cutting moment. One thing that Quentin Tarantino was very careful to do was to actually cut away at the point at which the ear slicing takes place. But as he walks out the door, the music disappears into the distance, like, you know, because he's using the music that's within the scene. It's not a soundtrack over the top, and it gets quieter as he gets closer to the car, and then becomes louder again as he walks back to the car. And then just something about the absolute psychology of Mr. Blonde, because he's covered in blood. He's got 2 pistols, you know, strapped around him, carrying a razor blade, walks to the boot of the car and just casually takes out a can of petrol with the intention of setting a person on fire. And there's just something about the vibe of him, you know, and Michael Madsen's performance there is. So not only is it a kind of hugely influential scene on me in the sense of it was right at the time when I was really getting into film and stuff, and so the whole film, you know, Reservoir Dogs is an important part of that. But that one particular scene just has such these lovely touches. And then, of course, Mr. Orange does what Mr. Orange does. I think I'm safe to spoil on that. He shoots Mr. Blonde before he finishes off the copper, and we find out that there is indeed a rat in the house.
There is indeed. Good scene.
So it is a good scene. You're right. You were very weirdly quiet on me then.
No, I was just enjoying your take on it. I know exactly what you're talking about, whether he goes out to the car and obviously it's because the radio is going on in the warehouse, so it gets quieter and then gets louder again. And even though I'd not thought about it, I knew exactly what you're talking about and could picture it in my head.
But yeah, but it's the casual nature of Mr. Blonde, you know, putting on a cheesy 70s radio station, dancing to a George Baker tune, and there's just very at odds with what's going on in the scene, and then that whole moment of, you know, just walks out, just doesn't give a fuck, just walks out to the car like anybody could be just like walking the dog or whatever, and see him covered in blood with 2 guns getting petrol out of his car. I mean, what's anyone supposed to conclude in that moment? And he just don't give a shit. He's like, if someone sees me, I'll probably shoot him anyway. You know what I mean? Just really sells the character,
Badass.
What he's all about. Yeah. And Michael Madsen, you couldn't get a better casting for that, could you?
No, he's good. He's not done a lot of other stuff, has he?
He's been around. He was in Kill Bill, wasn't he? And Free Willy, of course.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, that is weird. He's got a part in True Romance, but yes. It's very small.
Yeah.
Cool.
He kind of has a niche, doesn't he, that he sits very firmly within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
other than Free Willy.
Indeed. So, okay, there you go. There's mine. Over to you for your second, my man.
Okie doke. So my one is quite short. It is from Aliens. I mean, there's loads of cool scenes from Aliens. There's a bit where Hudson dies. There's the initial kind of dropship, and they're all setting up. You know, I could go on and on. There's a bit where she goes to save Newt. There's the bit where you think Bishop's gone away, but he's not. You've got the remote sentries that gets cut out and brought back for the director's cut special edition, which isn't that exciting, as that's why they cut it. But then it becomes very exciting because you get to see it in the special edition. But it's the phrase "Get away from her, you biatch." When the alien queen is going for Newt, and then the door opens and she's got the power loader set up, and that gives you goosebumps. I defy anyone to not get goosebumps when she says that. And you're watching it, you're in the moment, and you're like, yeah, go on, have her. And
iconic.
Similarly, the in Harry Potter episode number 7, part 2, how Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows part 2, when Mrs. Weasley turns round to Bellatrix Lestrange and goes, "Not my daughter, you bitch." Same thing, goosebumps. I don't know if it's because it reminds me of Aliens or because of its own right, but I very much enjoy that as well. And then she does Bellatrix Lestrange, and you're just like, yes, you fucking hate you.
Yeah, I mean that is such an iconic movie scene. You'd be hard pressed to find someone of our age who could just be shown a still of that moment and go, "Oh yeah, I know exactly what's going on there, what film it's from," and could quote you the famous line.
Yeah, heads on the back of your arms all stand up.
Yeah, absolutely outstanding. Great choice, sir. Great choice. Thank you very much. Shall I take us into my third choice?
Please do.
Yeah. So this is a scene in American Gangster. Denzel Washington, Russell Crowe, and it's the coffee shop scene where he just takes out his competition. I don't know if you've seen this.
I'm not sure if I have seen it. Is it?
I love this film. It's one of my all-time favourites. I know it's not quite as in the gangster genre. I don't think it's quite as respected as some other movies. But Denzel Washington, the gang leader who he has been under the tutelage of, dies, and then he and another kind of lieutenant are sort of duking it out to take control of Harlem. And there's been a few words on the street, and they've kind of been playing that gangstery game. But Denzel Washington then reaches out to his brothers and his cousins who live out in the countryside and bring them into the city to shore up his muscle and his support, and to kind of communicate to his family, to communicate to the rest of Harlem, to communicate to the rest of the gang that I'm in charge now. He just shoots his competitor for this position of control just out in the street, just pulls a pistol out and pops him right in the face in front of everyone, broad daylight.
Blop, blop.
And then put some money in a jar, and then walks back into the coffee shop, continues talking to his brothers and cousins as if nothing had happened. He's doing a bit of a polemic on power, orders everyone breakfast. And what's really interesting about it, and there's a few reasons, Denzel Washington he's Denzel Washington, possibly my most favourite actor of all time, and his performance and the way he sells it. The other guy is Idris Elba. So you got kind of two absolute powerhouses, of modern acting talent, just playing off each other so tremendously. And it's one of very few moments. You see, what's interesting about the film is the cops are actually, a lot of the violence that takes place centres around the Russell Crowe and his police force and the police story that's unraveling. The gangster side of the story, from Denzel Washington's perspective, has very, very little actual violence take place. It's just because of that moment, because we know what he's capable of, nobody tests the limit of that. Do you get what I mean?
I think so, yeah. I've not seen the movie, so...
Well, I won't say any more then, because you may watch it one day. I think it's a really good film. But there's very few actual acts of violence on the part of Denzel Washington's character, because he only needed to do one act of violence to tell the entirety of Harlem who's the boss. You know what I mean? And it's just so, I mean, he's just such a great actor. I love Denzel Washington to bits. I'll watch anything he's in. And I've watched a lot of his films over and over. And American Gangster is just great. I love it. And that particular scene it's just so effortlessly cool and powerful, and just accomplishes everything the scene's supposed to accomplish.
Nice. I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it's very good, man. Very good.
Cool. Well, from a gritty gangster milf to start that again. From a gritty gangster film to Ghostbusters 2.
Woohoo!
And this is the scene. It's the scene in the courthouse where the brothers, the Straguli brothers, or whatever it is, they appear and they get the okay from the judge to put their proton packs on and deal with it. The scene is cool for a number of reasons, nostalgia-wise, but the build-up to it, because you had the Ghostbusters original movie, they weren't going to make any more. Then the cartoon came up, which spurred an interest, which then they made the second one. So you had this whole build-up of the first movie, watching it over and over again, and then seeing your favorite characters in a different situation, and just how they do it. It's just I don't know if it's just me, but I think it's a wicked scene, like where the chairs flip as it's coming towards them. Yeah. It's very simple, but it just works. It's a great scene. It's one of my favorite ever movie scenes, and there's some good scenes out there. And then obviously they defeat the brothers, and then they're back, and then the whole music kicks in. We're back, and then you can see the Ecto 1A come screeching round. So yeah, that's mine. I suppose that's probably quite a personal one, but might not be for many people. But I also remember that was the scene that was kind of spoiled on kind of like breakfast television, and it made me very excited for the movie.
Well, that's what I asked for, mate. Your greatest top scenes, and that's whether it's a super personal reason or not. It's perfectly valid.
So that's mine, short and sweet. On to your number 4.
Number 4 is Children of Men. And it's the scene where they're driving through the woods and they get ambushed. I don't know if you've seen this.
Mate, I'm realising we have a very different taste in films. I don't know. What is Children of Men?
It's taken you until this 12th episode to realise that. It's Clive Owen in it, Michael Caine, and the mankind can no longer have children.
Oh,
be made infertile.
Oh yeah, I've seen the movie. It's a good movie. It's like and there's someone. Is it the pregnant woman they're smuggling around?
That's right. Yes, that's right. And there's a scene in the car, and they're driving through the woods, and then a flaming car comes out of the tree line to like barricade and block their pathway, and then suddenly loads of people come, like sort of screaming out the woods, and then these motorcycles turn up with guys with guns, and it's I'm back on tracking shots because it's all one continuously filmed shot, and it's filmed from the passenger seat of the car.
Wow!
And I just find it exhilarating.
See,
I'm a big nerd for single tracking shots.
Aren't you? See, I don't think that when I watch a movie, I don't really think about that. I just kind of follow the story, and things might look pretty or not, but I don't know if I consciously pick up on stuff like that.
No, well, I don't think I would have realised it till after the fact, perhaps. But I am a big nerd for tracking shots. But what this one does beautifully, because of the way, because it's all filmed in one continuous shot, and it's filmed from the passenger seat. It makes the viewer perspective in the film is right in the middle of the action. So whereas ordinarily you might see an action scene of that nature sort of being filmed from a third party point of view, he's put the camera in the car and doesn't interrupt the shot once. So all the camera spinning and turning is kind of replicating the looking over your head, looking over your shoulder, the panic, the fear, and it's brilliant. Incredible scene. And that from the moment the flaming car comes out of the tree line, it like quickens my heart. I just feel terrified.
Mm-hmm. I have to rewatch that. I'll see if I can find that clip on YouTube.
Yeah, there's two continuous shots in the film. There's one long continuous shot in the final action scene as well, in the big finish. That's incredibly well done as well.
Is that quite a big movie then? I remember watching it and thinking, oh, that was quite interesting. That was good. But
yeah, well, reasonably big. The director directed the third Harry Potter film.
Oh, okay.
So I can't remember his name right now. Spanish guy, but he's big. He's famous. You know what I mean? Big enough to direct a Harry Potter movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I certainly know it's very well known for those action scenes and the way he chose to film them.
Awesome stuff. Is it back to me?
So your fourth, please, my man. Yeah.
Okay, this is one that I watched very recently. Independence Day. Now, there's the bit in Independence Day that I'm talking about. It's the bit right at the end, and they're in the final battle scene, and all the planes are up in the air. It's filled with any possible pilot they can find. The president's up there, and they've run out of time. The main primary weapon is open. The president lines up his shot, and then he hits the side and he misses. And he's like, we've got no missiles. And they're like, just get out of there. Just get out of there. And then up rocks. Fucking drunk ass comedy sidekick character.
It is Winnebago.
And he's like, sorry, I'm late, Mr. President. And he's so stereotypical kind of redneck. I mean, this character, in all accounts, should have been like, he should have died by, being stabbed in some kind of weird bar in America in the car park. Right. That's where his character is leading off is completely batshit. And I just love how it's done, because like, he's like, sorry, I'm late. And they're like, let's clear the road from him. And then even the plane, like as he's like dodging through, I don't think planes could move like that, but it looks like he's kind of like winding through people in a bar to try and get to shoot the missile. Like it looks like, I don't think planes move like that. I'm pretty sure it's like, it is there to emulate the fact that he is, basically a drunk nobody. And then obviously his missile doesn't fire, and he's like, tell my kids I love them. As he's flying up, he's like, I'm back, boys. And then it all blows up. And I quite like the fact that it was, I mean, it's not massively like twist, it's not a massive plot twist, but I quite like the way that how they set it up, that the president, he's in a plane, he's got his missile, he was going to be the one to down it. And then this kind of random comic element that had been brought all the way through, maybe just for the, a bit of lighthearted relief, rocks up and, is the one that saves the day. It's got great kind of like build up music, and I really love the movie. I think it's a brilliant movie. First time I watched the movie was when I was 16 in the cinema. I was stoned as fuck, which may help my recollection, like really badly. But yeah, love that. I watched it recently and I was like, that's just that, like proper goosebumps. Thank you very much.
There you go. Oh boy, you're a sucker for the uplifting soundtrack and the cheesy dialogue.
I am. It gets you. It's it's a system that works, but to properly get we've all... like the speech in Independence Day as well. I'm not American. I'm not, I don't really know what Independence Day is. I kind of have an idea it's something to do with, is it tea in the sea and the British are coming and redcoats and stuff like that. But yeah, Bill Pullman's speech with the background, we will not go quietly into the night. Yeah, it gets me going, and I don't even know what half of it means. So yeah, it's good.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Great choice. All right, well, I think that takes me to my final choice now. And my last choice is the opening scene of Goodfellas.
Well, you have to remind me. I've seen the film a few times, but I can't remember.
Robert De Niro, Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci in the car. They're driving around. They're just bantering and chatting shit. I think like Henry Hill's, Ray Liotta's napping. And then they hear a thud. And then another thud. And then another thud. And then like, oh, hang on. Is that? Yeah, I think it is. They stop the car, pull over onto the side of the road, open the doors. They come out, they open the door. You've got Billy Batts, bleeding, battered, fucked up in the boot. And they just draw kitchen knives, stab the fuck out of him, shut the lid, and then Henry Hill's voiceover comes on and says, "For as long as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster." And it just tells you everything about what you're about to walk into.
Nice.
Now, I think some people would sort of say, "Nah, come on, it must be Joe Pesci in the Do You Think I'm Funny?" Bar scene, or maybe the where he takes he takes his girlfriend through the back of the club and into the and stuff, and there's the actual fight with Billy Bats in the bar, and so I mean, there's loads of great scenes in that. But I just think the way the film opens, just every time I watch it, and that's it. Then I can't.
You're in.
I can't break away from it. Yeah, I'm not glancing at my phone. No, it's lights off. It's proper. Goodfellas is on. Everyone, shut the fuck up.
Nice. I've seen Ray Liotta in real life.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did you take him out on the town to some student bars? Was he performing in?
No. We were in LA when me and my wife, we did our traveling thing, and we were in LA, and there was the movie premiere of Identity, which he was in. And we went down and we stood, it was on the other side of the road to the Chinese theatre, and and watched him walk in. Also saw Jennifer Love Hewitt, which was quite exciting.
Oh, there you go. That is exciting. And there you go. There's my top pick. That's my favourite scene of all time.
Nice. Right. This highlights, I think, the difference in our tastes in movies. And there's a few notable. I mean, we could go through a list of notable mentions. Things like the battle scenes in Endgame, that was up there. Also in Infinity Gauntlet as well. That is Infinity Gauntlet. Or have I just
Bombay. Infinity War.
Infinity War, yeah. I'm thinking Dice Masters. But I've gone for a scene. There's not many things that make me cry. Very few things. In fact, there's probably a list of about 5 things that could make me cry. This is one of them. And it is the scene in Toy Story 3 when they are in the incinerator and they all think they're about to die. And Pixar does very well, pulling at your emotional kind of heartstrings. Because Up, the first 2 minutes of Up, if you ever want to be harrowed by an experience of sitting down thinking you're going to watch a kids movie and then ending up in tears, will justify that. But this one is like, what? It's horrible. But it's very clever. Like, you've got these characters. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I think I might have said this to you. You've got this group of characters that you have lived with for 3 movies, for fucking years. Like, probably, I can't remember when it was built, but you're probably looking at the best part of 10 years that you've known and loved these characters. Like, your kids have got the toys, the stationery, the wallpaper, the bedclothes, everything about it. And then they're going to die. And not only to die, that they all look at each other, they all accept the fact that they are about to die. They get to that point. It's like, that they're all, been lined up for execution. They all hold hands, and it's just like, well, we're accepting we're about to die. It's like, I can remember like one Christmas being at my mum's house and the kids were watching the film in the background. I wasn't even watching the movie. I clocked that scene was on and tears welled up. It was like, what? How have you made this? How could you make an animation about toys coming to life cause more of a emotional response from a grown man than many other movies where main characters have died. I'm trying to think of an example. What have we gone for? Is like for characters that have died. Like, I didn't cry when the Weasleys died at Harry Potter. Although when Hedwig went, that was nearly, but you knew it was coming. Oh, and Dobby.
Surely not. Surely Dobby. Yeah,
Dobby. Maybe that might be in my top 5, but I don't want to give them all away.
That's the bit. That's the bit that cuts into my kids.
It's unnecessary. Hedwig as well. Not to. I mean, quite a lot. Like the dog. I think we talked about it again. Apologies, I can't remember if we talk about these things that off or on when we're recording. But I watched I Am Legend, and the dog. I knew the dog was going, but I hadn't seen it for so long I didn't know when, and that destroyed me. But his family in a helicopter, really not that bothered. But when the dog goes, fuck it out. So yeah, that's a good example. Like, his family die in a helicopter crash. Oh, that's a nightmare. Woody and Buzz about to get melted. They don't even have live organs or, whatever. Tears me up. So that is by far the greatest movie scene of all time. That's a very different list that we've created.
Yep, I can't argue with your choices, though. All right, well, there you go. So there's 10 great scenes, 5 apiece from me and Andy. We'd love to know what your favourite movie scenes of all time are and why. So
yes,
head to the comments below. Let us know. Let's expand this list and see if we can't get a huge master list from ModXtra of the greatest movie scenes of all time, as determined by us and our audience. But I think some great choices there, some interesting choices, perhaps not what you were expecting. And let us know if that's the case as well. If you thought, didn't expect Chris or Andy to come up with one of them, and maybe we can do more with this.
Yeah,
idea.
Cool.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Well, there we go. There's our top movie scenes of all time. Let's move us into the outro. Okay then, folks, as all things must, this episode of ModXtra has come to an end. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording.
And we did.
We've run... And we did.
Didn't long. Wait for my... And we did.
No, well, you just said lamp straight into it, so I was lamping straight into it.
Lamping straight in.
I am, yeah. We're done. That's it. I'm Chris, True Mr. 6. He's Andy. He'll have an AK in a second. Come back in 2 weeks' time. Bish, bash, bosh. There you go.
Sorted. Let's just do for the socials quickly. So, facebook.com/ModXtraCast without the E. BritRoller6.com if you want to find out the link to go to our Discord. I think the link to the Discord might be on our Facebook page as well. ModXtra on Twitch for just the random nerdy stuff that we do, as well as this very, very special YouTube channel that you have to be on at the moment to be listening to this. Do subscribe. We cover not just the vodcast, but we haven't really got a set theme, which I think is what's kind of hampering us. We don't just do videos of us playing computer games or talking bollocks or whatever else. It's just like a lot of different things, which is what we like to do. So that's where it is. So follow us, subscribe, join Discord, do all of that stuff. Come and join us for watching Ready Player One, which will be a week Monday. Let's see if my calendar will pop up nice and quick on my computer. No, because my computer doesn't do anything quickly. So that would be the 29th of March, 2021. Please read The Invisibles if you can, so that you can join our discussion about that when we return 2 weeks from today, which will be the 5th of April, which will be Easter Monday. Happy Easter.
Oh, will it?
Well, for 2 weeks. Next episode, Happy Easter.
See, things like that are meaningless in these lockdown times.
No, well,
just sort of
don't have to work, do you?
No, that's true. That's true. Okay, great. Well, thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you in 2 weeks. I've been Chris, otherwise known as True Mr. 6.
And I've been Andy, a.k.a. H from Steps.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Laying down tape, as it were, but we watched the Avengers Infinity War again.
Oh, cool.
And I had to keep pausing it because she kept going, so this guy, I'm like, sweetheart, that guy's got a whole film of his own. We watched it together, both in the cinema and when it came out on Blu-ray. You've seen the movie with him in it like 3 times now. And she was like, yeah, so just no retention at all of like, why the Winter Soldier had no arm and was living in Wakanda, or why the Hulk Bruce Banner was having his weird thing that he was doing in the film, or why Thor had lost his eye, or why it's a 2.5 hour film, and I swear to God it took nearly 4 hours to watch. Through pausing it and like kind of updating her on stuff. And she was like, oh yeah, there's the Scarlet Witch and Vision. We've just watched that TV show about them. I'm like, fuck,
I didn't realise they were in this.